So, today we're going to dive into what is basically a public health mystery. Researchers in Latvia were trying to figure out why so many kids were having such serious dental problems. And what they found was a system in total crisis. But, and this is the amazing part, they also found a solution that was surprisingly simple, way kinder, and believe it or not, a whole lot cheaper.
You know that sound, right? That high-pitched whine? It's enough to give anyone chills. It's a feeling pretty much all of us have had. But just imagine for a second, what if that drill was the only choice you had?
Yeah. For a huge number of kids, this wasn't just some abstract fear. It was the absolute reality of their dental care. And that is exactly where our story kicks off, with a dedicated team of researchers from a national health initiative called the IEVA project, who were trying to get their arms around just how big this problem really was. So the EVA team started where you'd expect. They started digging into the data, looking at how kids' teeth were actually being treated. And what they found was honestly shocking. They uncovered a system that was completely stuck in the past, relying on methods that weren't just old, but were often really traumatic for these children. This is the number that just stopped them cold: 48%. Almost half of all the major procedures for deep cavities, what are called pulp treatments, were this old, really aggressive technique called pulp mummification. It essentially just kills the nerve inside a child's tooth. It's a practice that modern dentistry, which is all about trying to keep the tooth alive and healthy, left behind a long, long time ago. And this, right here, is a textbook example of what experts call low-value care. Think of it like this. It's like waiting for a tiny leak in your roof to turn into a full-blown flood inside your house and then deciding to patch the hole. The whole system was pouring its money into these late-stage, invasive procedures instead of just, preventing the problems from happening in the first place. But the IEVA project knew that, numbers on a page can only tell you so much. To really get what was going on, they had to talk to the people who were living it every day, the parents who were worried sick about their kids, and the dentists who were actually providing the care. And what they found was this huge disconnect. It was almost like two different worlds. On one side, you've got the parents who were just desperate for less trauma, for more modern options for their kids. But on the other side, the dentists felt totally trapped. They were stuck between tradition, really tight schedules, and a payment system that actually encouraged them to use the older, more invasive procedures. And this quote from one of the parents in the study, wow, it just says everything. When the researchers simply explained that, hey, there are modern, much gentler alternatives, the sense of relief was just huge. It wasn't that parents didn't want new ideas, they just had no idea that better choices even existed. Okay, so if parents wanted better care, and better care was out there, what was the real roadblock? The EVA team had a hunch it all came down to one thing: money. So they launched a full economic analysis, and what they found would end up being the key to a potential revolution in Latvian dental care. All right, first, they had to establish a baseline. The Latvian government had a budget of 34 million euros a year for children's dental care. That's the total pot of money we're talking about. And that led them to the big question, or I guess the 34 million euro question. Could the country actually afford to make the switch, to give every single kid who needed it these modern, kinder treatments? And here it is, the answer. And honestly, it is stunning. Providing that modern, high-value care to every child wouldn't cost more. It would cost dramatically less. Just 6.5 million euros. When you see it like this, side by side, the argument just makes itself. The better, kinder, more effective way of doing things costs less than 20% of the money they already had. It was never about not having enough money. It was about spending it on the wrong things. But just when it seemed like they had the perfect solution, the researchers uncovered a plot twist. It turned out, even if they fixed every single treatment, there was another, even more basic problem that was ruining kids' oral health before they ever even saw a dentist. The hidden villain? Toothpaste. Yep. Their surveys found that more than 60% of children were using toothpastes that either had no fluoride at all or had so little that it was basically useless for preventing cavities. The main line of defense wasn't working.
And you know what's amazing? The research team didn't just write this down in a report and call it a day. No, they sprang into action. They went out, they got new funding, they set up a specialized lab, trained a chemist, and started testing the toothpaste that were actually being sold in stores. They tackled this new problem head on.
And that complete approach, looking at everything from outdated drills to bad toothpaste, is what made the IEVA project so incredibly powerful. They didn't just publish a study. They built this airtight case for change that started making waves from small local clinics all the way to global health organizations. I mean, the sheer amount of work they did speaks for itself. We're talking 11 scientific papers, 7 master's theses, 13 presentations at international conferences, and they even developed a whole new clinical protocol for dentists. This wasn't just research, it was a force of nature. And all that hard work, all that data, it actually led to real impact. It drove policy talks with Latvia's Ministry of Health. It gave the Latvian Dental Association the evidence they needed to push for change. And it even contributed directly to the World Health Organization's global oral health strategy. In fact, the project's lead researcher ended up representing Latvia at the WHO's global meeting, where she helped shape the Bangkok Declaration. It's this simple, powerful statement that connects this fight for healthy teeth in a small country to a fundamental truth about human well-being all over the world. So, in the end, the IEVA project gave us this incredible blueprint. They proved, with hard data, that better care is not only possible, but it's also cheaper. And that leaves all of us with one final, really important question, not just for Latvia, but for health systems everywhere. When the science is this clear, what will it finally take for us to listen?